Alrighty, so a sincere thank you from all of the congregation members to all of you for coming today. I guess it could be worse, it could have snowed, but other than that, we're going to just sit here and schwitz a little bit. I want to thank some forward-looking Jews in Saugus and talk a little bit about the history. In 1925, Louis Yanofsky, Benjamin Pincus, Jacob Weiner, and a few others set about to find a piece of property to build a synagogue for the Jews in Saugus who had been going to Linz for their worshiping prior to that. They landed on this property and they decided that they liked it. They got it, and the property was deeded to the congregation on April 11th, 1925 by Frederick H. Griswold. On April 8th of that same year, a $4,000 loan was taken out with Frank C. Guilford of Guilford Lumber Company. Cornerstone was laid on June 18th, and actual construction began on July 1st, 1925. So we're right in that area here today. Louis Yanofsky went on to be the first president of the congregation. Jacob Weiner became the first treasurer. Little is known about the actual construction and the time thereafter, but what we do know is that on May 23rd of 1926, the first and only wedding occurred in the new synagogue between Mary and Sidney Saunders. The reception was held downstairs in the building. 20 years later, on June 17, 1945, there was a mortgage burning ceremony, and we have the well-documented proof in the local Lynn newspapers to prove it. Over 200 people attended the reception. I wish we got that kind of a turnout today. We know the congregation began as an Orthodox synagogue, but as the years passed by, a more conservative liturgy became the practice. Now this may or may not have become in part because of the women who used to sit upstairs. In Orthodox synagogue, men and women are separated, and the women would sit upstairs. And as that place started to kind of get a little unkept and not real so safe on the stairs, the women who used to sit separate from the men started to move down into the men's area. And we all know that's not a good mix. They sat up in the back, and they began to filter in more and more, and thus one side of the synagogue became men and one side became women only, so that they were still separated but not by at least another level. So they were still separate from the men. At the same time, a lot of things were going on in the world at that point. And we used to just have bar mitzvahs for boys. It was always a male-oriented religion. But as women began to get their footing and their voice, they wanted to do bar mitzvahs for girls. So the ritual of accepting a young girl as part of the congregation, which is what a bar mitzvah is, it's not unlike a confirmation in the Catholic Church for Christians. They began to become popular, and the synagogue followed suit. Whereas only boys would have this ceremony, which is called a bar mitzvah, now they would have one for girls, which was called a bas mitzvah. It's an S, bas. At any rate, not a lot is known after the mortgage burning. There's not a lot of documentation that I've been able to find. But we do jump to the 1960s, and that is where my story is going to end and our speakers are going to start. But before we start with the guest speakers, I would like Randy Sue Abbott to come up. And she is, some of our guests will be reflecting on their ancestors, and others will speak of their own experiences growing up in the congregation. Randy's going to go over the proclamations that we received, and I understand we have one presentation that will be happening. So Randy, come on up. Randy is the linchpin of this synagogue. She keeps us all going. She's vice president of my sisterhood, but boy, she's much more than that. She does just about everything, and without her, we would surely falter. Come on up, Randy, I'll get out of here.
Okay, tell me if you want this lead first.
The letter from him. you know, whatever comes last, you do the proclamations.
Okay.
Is, what's her name, Deborah here?
Okay.
Yep, okay. Oh, yep,
Say hi, Debbie.
Yep. Yeah, no, she'll call.
Just wait, just wait. Okay, we received documentation of citations from Ronald Marino, Donald Wong, and State Representative Jessica Giannino. And we got citation from Elizabeth Warren, and we got citation from Seth Moulton, and we got citation from Karen Spiller. Thank you, she's the President of the Senate. Michael Hurley and Brendan Crichton. There's one I want to read, and someone moved it around.
No, I just come up and would have say more.
Okay, this is the one from Donald Marino, Donald Wong, and Jessica Giannino. They are state representatives, precinct 1 through 10. Be it hereby known to all that the Massachusetts House of Representatives offers its sincerest congratulations to our congregation, Ahavas Shalom, in recognition of the joyous and monumental occasion of the congregation's 100th anniversary of its founding. The entire membership extends its very best wishes and expresses the hope for future good fortune and continued success in all endeavors. Given this first day of July at the State House, Boston, Massachusetts, signed by Robert Mariano, Speaker of the House. The others say something other than that, but not quite as nicely. I was very impressed by his writing. So these will be on the history table in the restaurant. Do you want me to read Hector?
No, I want you to call Deborah.
Deborah Panetta, would you please come to the bimah? You're learning this word today, bimah. And read your citation.
Thank you, Randy.
You're welcome, Deborah.
I'm honored to be here today, and congratulations to each and every one of you on 100 years. Not that any of you are 100 years old, obviously.
Oh, we feel like it. Yes.
No.
99.
Unfortunately, we all live in troubled times. People need to live in unity with respect for each and every one of each other. When we saw in Saugus something terrible happening on Route 1, we immediately called for a ceremony celebrating our Jewish faith. There is no tolerance for any sort of hatred. We had the menorah light. We do that every year now to celebrate our Jewish brothers and sisters. As you can tell, Saugus celebrates everyone. And I'm very fortunate that many of you are my good friends. I mean, I'm looking out at my wonderful friend Ruth Berg, who I think is just my role model, honest and true. I love her more than words, Ruth. I promise to always bring unity and love to our town. And again, that's what each one of you represent. I want to thank you for everything you do. The citation reads, Town of Saugus citation, congratulations to the congregation of Ahavas Shalom on the 100th anniversary, and it's signed by all 5 of the Board of Selectmen. And again, congratulations on 100 years.
I'll introduce you to him. But you know what, take a seat with her and I'll call her because I want Joel Church first. Okay, I'm going to ask Joel Davidson, who is our cousin, which means basically cantor. He chants the prayers that we say in the shul. So Joel is going to come up and do some welcoming remarks and some prayers. Yeah.
Pledge of Allegiance.
What, yeah.
Let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
If you can. If you're not able to rise, please don't feel you have to.
I pledge
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated.
Someone took my notes from the Bimmer. I would appreciate it if I could have them back. Deborah, you got them? Okay.
And now let us sing the national anthem of the State of Israel. It's in
The yellow pages.
the yellow page.
Second page.
Oh, B'nai B'nima, Nefesh Yehudi, Omiyah, U'atem Mizrach, Kodima, Ayim Sion, Sophia.
Thank you. Go ahead, Chuck.
Dear friends and members of Congregation Ahavas, Shalom, Brachim Habaim, welcome. Happy 100th birthday, Congregation Ahavas, Shalom. Yom Holedet Sameach. Let's continue singing a song that we sing to celebrate a simcha, a happy time. And that song is called Siman Tov. We have it here. Yeah, it's on the second page. Third page. Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov. Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov. And again, how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. Hine matov manayim shevet kachim achim gam yachad. Serving as high holiday cantor for you has been the culmination of my dream to serve the Jewish community liturgically. I started serving as your high holiday cantor in 2012, shortly after I received my cantorial certificate from Hebrew College. And I love to read the words of the Torah in the original and without vowels. It is a great honor for me to do so and to lead services during Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Everything changed during COVID with reduced hours at the temple and fear of becoming ill. And now everything has changed again on October 7th, 2023, as we experienced anti-Jewish hatred in the United States surging to unprecedented levels. Now Jews are fair game to be hunted down like dogs by brainwashed crazies. Israel is fighting for its survival with this latest Israel-Iran war, and our hostages remain in Hamas terror dungeons, and the world doesn't care. And because of the many wars Israel faces, including the wars with Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and the Israel-Iran war, Israel is facing a struggle for its very existence. Because of this, I have a heavy heart and don't know where to turn. As it says in the Passover Haggadah, in every generation someone arises to destroy us, but the Holy One, blessed be He, rescues us from our destruction. And also it says, He watching over Israel slumbers not nor sleeps. Let us pray for the United States and for our people, and for our hostages, and for the beleaguered state of Israel. And let us say Amen.
Amen.
Am Yisrael Chai. I want to close by reading some passages in Hebrew. Psalm 121, I will lift up mine eyes to the mountains, from whence shall my help come. My help cometh from the Lord, who made heaven and earth. Esa einai el harim, me'ayin yavo esri. Esa einai el harim, me'ayin yavo esri. Esri me'em Adonai, ose shamayim ve'aretz. Esri me'em Adonai, ose shamayim ve'aretz. Esa einai el harim, me'ayin yavo esri. Esa einai el harim, me'ayin yavo esri. And also let's sing the prayer for the state of Israel. Read in English and then in Hebrew. Our Father in heaven, rock and redeemer of Israel, bless the state of Israel, the first manifestation of the approach of our redemption. Shield it with your loving kindness, envelop it in your peace, and bestow your light and truth upon its leaders, ministers, and advisors, and grace them with your good counsel. Strengthen the hands of those who defend our holy land. Grant them deliverance and adorn them in a mantle of victory. Ordain peace in the land and grant its inhabitants eternal happiness. Inu Shabashamayim Tzu Yisrael V'Do'alo Barechet Medinat Yisrael Reshit Smichat Tulatinu Agin Aleha Be'avrach Hastacha U'Varos Aleha Sukat Shlomecha U'Shalach Orcha Ba'amitcha L'Rashacha Zareha Yo'atzecha V'Taknein Be'etza Tova Milfanecha Chazek Et Yedei Minei Eretz Kadshenu Ankelenu Eloheinu Yeshua V'Taknein V'Zakot Ha'afar V'Natata Shalom. God bless you and your family. Am Yisrael Chai.
Thank you, Joel. And now for our invited guests. My original guest was first one was supposed to be Donald Sherman. Donald unfortunately suffered a medical emergency this week and has been confined to his house and not allowed to go out at all, and was not allowed to drive, so he could not be here. But I found someone in Connecticut who was going to try and come up. His name is Kelvin Hecht, H-E-C-H-T. But his family wouldn't let him drive up because he's almost 86. And so when he called me Friday night, he said he would forward us the script of what he was going to say, and that's what Randy is going to read right now.
Since I left Saugus as a teenager, I can only commit as an observer, not a full participant. The synagogue had no Hebrew school, no youth group, no activities for young people. Can everybody hear me? Yes. The synagogue was just a place where the Jewish families of Saugus could meet 3 days a year I knew all the families, the Yanofskys, London, Sharon, Sherman, Pincus, Saunders, etc., but the men from only those days. I did, however, know the women. Most had been in our homes, in the parlor, playing bridge or mahjong. They played for money. The big money for the evening could be 25 cents. They gossiped about those who were not there that night. It was as though these women, the sisterhood, had a sense of Jewish community in Saugus. You could count on these women to come through for a function at the synagogue, a wedding, a shower, a funeral, or a sickness. For me personally, they made my bar mitzvah. I had my bar mitzvah at the synagogue on Purim, 1953. The party was in the basement. It was essentially a potluck supper put on by the sisterhood and probably organized by Mrs. London. I think she had a little side hustle on the side. This synagogue could survive for another 100 years if and only if she had a strong and active sisterhood. Thank you, sisterhood. You did a good job. The other seat too? Thanks.
I am now pleased to ask Nancy Selden to come up. She came all the way from Florida just to be here today to share this day with us. Good to have you. Thank you, Nancy.
She didn't tell you my maiden name, and that's Yanofsky. So my grandfather, Louis, was one of the founders here, and I just couldn't let it go without coming up. He was my Zaidi. He was born in 1875 in Kiev, Ukraine. He came to the United States via Ellis Island in 1906 with his 5 brothers and 2 sisters. Louis had 5 sons and 1 daughter. One son died very young. My father, Samuel, and his 3 brothers all moved from Boston to Saugus and were members of this synagogue. That was Benjamin, otherwise known as Barney, and his wife Jeanette, Israel, Ike, and Ann, my father and mother Ruth, and the youngest Al and Martha. My aunt lived in Philadelphia. I was brought up on Denver Street, right next to the Londons. Road is here. And we used to walk to temple, to the synagogue on all the holidays, because we take a shortcut right through here. When I was young, I remember, and Rhoda and I talked about it, we sat up there with our mothers. And when it became unsafe, we sat back there. And all the men were up front. And then it became women could be there and men here. But then it became the Yanofskys family, Pincus's family, and then everybody else wherever in the back. But I do remember many families. One was the Shermans, and I was good friends with Donald Sherman's younger brother, Howie. I was his date for his bar mitzvah. The Saunders, the Shapiros, the Goodmans, the Hurwitz, Londons, and Bergs. If I left someone out, I'm sorry. It's been a long time since I've been around. During the services, they used to get annoyed with the kids, Rhoda and I, and our brothers and sisters and friends, and we'd go downstairs to play because they would send us out. But then they'd be stamping on the floor to be quiet, we're making too much noise. But we were, all close friends. My brother and other boys would get the bus right outside, used to be junior high, to go to Linden Hebrew School 3 days a week. and they were bar mitzvahed in various places, but they took the bus. Carol Hurwitz, Rhoda, and I went to Tifereth, Israel for Sunday school. My father stayed in Saugus until he sold his business, which was a family business which started where they do auto repair or something now. It used to be Keystone Storage Battery, and the 4 Yanofskis ran it, and then it became 3 Yanofskis. And when he sold the business, he was ill, and my parents moved to Stone, an apartment. He used to always say, please, please, remember Zadie and remember what he started and try and help them if you can. And over the last 10 years, I guess, about the last 10 years, I've been helping as much as I could. And I had a 25th anniversary party, and on the invitation, I said to people, if you're going to make a donation for anything, please make it, and I listed the congregation and the address and everything on it, and I was thrilled. I think the synagogue got about $800 from my friends from the anniversary. So when Maureen said and sent me the thing that there's a 100th anniversary celebration, I said I can't miss it, I need to come, and I have someone taking care of my husband so I could be here, and it's good to see all of you, and even though I don't know you, I think I know a lot of your mothers. Because my mother played canasta and bridge with all these women that I mentioned, and the guys played poker on Tuesday nights. And does anyone know a man by the name of Carl? I don't know his last name. My father used to play poker with him. Nobody knows Carl?
Carl Marcus?
Was it Marcus?
Yeah, it's the only one I can think of.
Yeah, I guess it was. I only know he had the cigar. My mother hated it on Tuesday night, and they'd come to play poker at our house. She couldn't stand the cigar. Anyway, I wish you all well, and I hope we can all keep this going. Thank you.
Take the heat back with you when you go to Florida.
I don't sweat this much in Florida.
Thank you very much, Nancy. I'm very pleased to call up our next speaker, who also made the trip from Florida to be here, but just today, Laurie Golan, who is going to share some of her recollections and just tell us about her family. Are you coming up, Laurie?
But I didn't write it.
Okay.
Laurie, where do you live? Florida.
No, I know.
The villages.
Villages? I'm south of West Palm.
I didn't know I was doing this.
I told you about this.
You
Don't
did, but
tell me.
But I didn't write anything because I said I wasn't doing it.
I never listen when people tell me
Yeah,
that. Well, you are.
I guess I am speaking, and this is totally ad-lib because I really wasn't planning on speaking. I'm Laurie Golan. My family goes way back. I am a generation of the Pincus family. And I know the name always got butchered and stuff, but my great-grandfather was one of the founders, and I wish I knew all the history that you know. I mean, I wish I knew it all, and unfortunately, I am the generation left. I said I wouldn't do this because I said you'll get emotional, but I had to come from Florida because when I came in here, I felt the hug. I just remember us all being over there and the family being all together. And it was a hard call, but I said, I have to be here for this. I said I would give one light story, though, because this is one of my favorite funny stories from here. Going back several years ago, there was, who was doing the service then? No, who was before, who was the last person? Who was it? After Eddie.
Golner. Dr. Golner, was
Are
it?
you talking about Dr. Gold?
Yes, it was Dr. Golner.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. What happened was we were running the service, and he had to leave in between and then come back for the evening service. Well, what happened was he was late coming back in. I wasn't going to tell this, but I am going to tell it because it's the only story I can remember. He was late coming back to the service, and when he came in, my dad was Dr. Golan. My dad and I said, what happened? He said, I got pulled over in Saugus for speeding. We said, where? And he told us he got pulled over in downtown Saugus for speeding. And my dad and I left the synagogue and we went to the police station. And then we told the police station what had happened. And we came back and we told Dr. Golden he no longer had a ticket. And that was a big to-do because he was in shock that we were able to get that fixed for him. That's not a very good story, but it's the best I could come up with right now. But anyways, my great-grandfather was on the board. My grandfather was on, and my dad was the treasurer back, oh my God, before Bill took over the treasurer's position. And as I said, it's just, I said I came in here, I flew here just because I said it's a history. And it felt right. Yep, it definitely felt like a good trip. I'm going to give Maureen a hug.
If Maureen can stand up, yes.
Don't worry about it, you did just fine.
Before I call the next speaker up, she reminded me of another story. Dr. Goldner, who she talked about, had the same position that Joel Davidson now has. He was our husband for the high holidays, and he was a wonderful man. In the early 2000s, we had a baby naming, and it was the last baby naming that we had since then. And the family that came in, we did the baby naming, we had a little ceremony, and the baby was crying, and people were shushing it, and walking out with it, and bringing it back in, and she'd still cry. And Dr. Goldner was up on the bimmer, and he said to them, never hush a child who's crying. They did that to us in the camps, and they'll never do it to us again. Our next speaker is Beth Simons, who is a second-generation member, and her son Mark is now the third. Beth's whole family were active members here to this very day. Yep, that's all I can do is take my time.
I was very pleased. Now I'm going to get all emotional. I was very pleased to be asked to speak about my family and my relationship with Congregation Ahavas Shalom. I've been an active member for the past 68 years. And, excuse me, this afternoon I feel like I did on that Friday night of April 1971 when I stood here at this lectern for my bat mitzvah. I'm a little bit nervous, and as you can see, emotional, but I know that I'm surrounded by family and friends. Both my parents were actively involved in the synagogue. My father was president of the Hebrew school and president of the Brotherhood. He distributed the honors during Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur for many years. And after that time, then Ruth Berg's husband Danny took over that responsibility. He also strongly advocated for the female congregants to actively participate in our religious services at a time when they were not being equally recognized. My mother was treasurer of the sisterhood for 46 years, a position that she held until she was 98 years old. Truly a lifetime commitment. I looked forward to going to Hebrew school to learn about Jewish history, culture, traditions, holidays, to learn a new language, and how to pray. We sang songs, participated in mock seders at Passover, and acted in holiday plays. Attendance was expected at Saturday Shabbat services. We were rewarded with Welch's grape juice and Mother's brand sandwich cookies. Who could ask for more?
These experiences helped to shape my Jewish identity. My husband, Michael, has been the lay religious leader at Ahavas Shalom for the past 26 years, conducting Friday night Shabbat services. And when Michael has been held up in traffic, our son Mark has conducted the service until his dad arrived. My family connection continues. And many of you in this audience have your own personal and family stories to tell. And if you will not be speaking this afternoon, I hope you'll share these memories with those who you'll be having dinner with this afternoon. Because all of us have made this congregation what it is and what it will, and it will continue to be. I look forward to having you here. Thank you.
In fact, if any speakers came up with a little history on paper, I'd like to have it for our historical book, if you could get it to me. My next speaker is a gentleman from Rhode Island. No, I'm sorry, I've skipped a line. Our next speaker is Ricky Radler, who is a current member of our shul. And by the way, I was going to explain the word shul, which I use without even thinking about, means school. And it is an affectionate word for synagogue. So if I say shul, I'm talking about the synagogue for those who may not be Jewish. Would you come up, Ricky? Thanks, son. This is yours.
All right. I can't remember all these things if they're 100% correct or not, but if somebody wants to help me out, like Beth or somebody, remember all the things that happened. We moved to Saugus in February of 1962, and I joined the show sometime after that. My whole family, Sam, Phyllis, my sister Leslie, and my sister Diane. My mother was part of the sisterhood. I don't know why my sisters they didn't go to the synagogue. I don't know why. My mother's not here, I can't ask her. Anyway, I attended with a very small class in a little room to the left over there. And I know it was good because we got some award for the top Hebrew school in the state at that time. I had some really sharp people in the two helper boys who went to Harvard, Jonathan Larkin, and of course, Beth's two brothers. They were also with me. That was it. And then I think, Beth, you were downstairs. Yeah. And then we used to have plays down there. Howard's got, like Haman, Howard's got the evil plans of plays. I don't know why. Anyway, I had my bar mitzvah right here in 1967. The teacher was Elliot Hurwitz. Did you have Elliot?
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah. He was a wonderful guy. And I used to aggravate him so much that I think he hated when I came to class. You know, the house boys were so smart, Jonathan Larkin and I was just a joker. But I made it through.
You did.
Let's see. I just remember that everybody loved being part of the plays downstairs, and it was wonderful. Let's see, and something that people didn't know, Sidney Laskin was the president at the time in the 70s, and he let my band play downstairs in the basement. So we had a rock band down there. And I probably shouldn't tell you this, but a couple of members, they were always good, but they disappeared one day, and I went to the back, looking for them in the bathroom. They were up here in a beamer. I said, "What are you doing in here?" And they were going to light up a marijuana cigarette. I go, "You can't do this." He goes, "Don't you go to church? Don't you know you can't do that?" "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." That was like the beginning of the end. We didn't last like too long. And I think we had, back in the 70s, we didn't have little small guitars. We had big amps, remember? You know? So we had them down there, and Sydney's going, "I don't know if that's good, big amps. We don't want it shaking up here."
Foundation.
Yeah, the foundation. So we didn't last too long, but It was wonderful. I left Maynard in '81. I married my wife Pam, and we moved to Maynard. But I always came back here, Macbeth, and it was wonderful. And I just got involved in it. I do remember. I don't remember which. It might have been. I did go when I was like 11. I went to services when I think it was one of the Inoskis passed away. He lived across the street from the police station. Does anybody remember that? I don't know who it was, but I was like 11, and I did the service, and I remember that's how I kind of got more into the synagogue. We used to do Saturday services, learn how to, but yeah, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. But that's all I want to say. I just want to say that this is the greatest, and I'll be here till then. Forever. I'm still in the band. Not the same guy. But yeah.
Still in the entertainment.
Still in the entertainment. And her husband used to play the guitar downstairs, the old guitar.
Yep.
So that was music down there. It sounded really good down there.
Yeah. Music always sounds good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rita. Our next guest speaker made the trip from Rhode Island. I'd like to call Michael Green. Is he here? Michael?
Yeah, Mike was in the class before me.
Michael Green did not come, apparently. That's unfortunate. He was supposed to. I hope they're okay. Our next guest speaker is Rhoda Goodman, who thankfully only lives in New Hampshire, but she still made it here, and she came to tell us what she remembers about our synagogue.
Shalom to all. I do not have anything written down. A lot of what I was thinking about, Nancy seldom had to say, but I do recall being up in the balcony with our mothers, and then eventually, because it wasn't stable enough, we couldn't use the balcony anymore, and we would come down here. And I was born in Saugus, and so all of my years through high school, I remember coming here only for the high holidays. We didn't have anything else going on here. The sisterhood was active, and my mother, Dot London, was very active with the sisterhood, and she was always baking and cooking and doing her thing for whatever needed to be done. As Kelvin Hecht mentioned, that she was the head of making his bar mitzvah here. I remember when my sister Selma turned 16, my mother made a large sweet 16 birthday party for her downstairs. And there were no Hebrew lessons taught here during my tenure, and that would have been, through the 50s. So as Nancy had mentioned, our parents decided that they would send us to Paris, Israel, and Malta. And either our mothers took us, or on occasion, I had to take the bus there or back. And so I did get my Hebrew and Sunday school lessons in Malta. I was not Bas or Bas, but they were just kind of starting with that. I was confirmed, as Nancy just said, and that was done at age 16, and that also was at the temple to Paris, Israel. But I do have fond memories of coming back here throughout the years, even after I was married and living in Peabody. And my mom passed away in '79, and that was the year that I moved to Sharon, Mass, south of Boston. And after that, my father evidently was feeling a need to do something productive, and he became president of Congregation Ahavas Shalom. And he was president, I believe, for about 20 years. And just about 2000, maybe 1999, he called me and he said, I think we're going to have to close the show. I said, what do you mean you're going to have to close it? He said, well, I'm getting too old to do it. He was about 90. And he said, there isn't anyone else that's going to want to do it. I said, well, have you asked? And he said, well, no. I said, well, Dad, first of all, you have to ask if there are other people. And you would need to call the union, the Hebrew Union Congregation, the Synagogue Council, okay, and talk to them about it. So they did put together a meeting, am I correct? And it was 2000, yeah. And someone from the association came and spoke to the congregation, and then it was at that time that Maureen and her husband Bill decided that they would take over the presidency and vice presidency, and they have done a wonderful job and to keep the synagogue going. And I'm happy to be here to celebrate the 100th anniversary. So I hope that you can all continue the congregation for many, many years to come in good health. Thank you. Okay.
Actually, the meeting she's talking about that happened in 2000, my husband was nominated as a vice president. Harry London stayed on for about another 6 or 8 months. And then my husband became president, and his second vice president, who was Danny Burr, his wife will be coming up, became vice president. Ted Golan, who was Laurie Golan's dad, who spoke just a few minutes ago, was the treasurer, and he stayed on as treasurer, and they made me secretary. I was not vice president. I have never been vice president. But anyway, they decided to keep it open, and we've been plugging along ever since, and I'm sure it's because the grace of God smiles down on us. Okay, so to continue. I've saved the best for last, and that's our final speaker is Ruth Berg, who has been an active member of the congregation since 1965 when she moved here to Saugus with her family. And she still continues on today to help, support, and offer wisdom to those of us who are newcomers by comparison. Ruth, can you get up on the thing, or do you want to just do it in front?
Which is just as well, because a lot of people have already said some things that I've said. I didn't know who was repeating it. This is the thrilled.
Can you hear her? Can everybody hear her? Can you speak up, Ruthie?
Okay, there's no, that's our next thing.
Somebody went by.
I'll try to talk louder. I'm deaf, so I think I'm yelling, but I'll try to talk louder. If I'm not, raise your hands, I'll talk louder, all right? I actually am homebound, but I sneaked out today to be here, wouldn't listen to the world. And I'm just so thrilled that this people came from out of state and everything. And we go back, I came here in 1968, and I was being evicted from a rented apartment and because they needed my apartment. And I looked at corresponding homes, and we decided Saugus seemed like a nice, sweet town to move to. And so we came here and got a two-bedroom house because I had one daughter, and she was 12 years old at the time. And I had an ectopic pregnancy, which said I very low if I ever have more children. If I was in any of these Republican states right now, I would be dead. So we're lucky to be here. So that beside what's, but the point is that with one daughter, I got her twin beds and she had the other bedroom. And I was there 2 months and I got pregnant. It was my miracle. So I have 2 daughters now. But unfortunately, I just lost my Sharon. But she is mostly what I wanted to tell you about because she was so active in the synagogue and so exceptional for a kid to love Judaism and synagogue as much as she did. And she came, she was 12 years old, and I had to take her out of the Hebrew school in Malden because she was a very poor student and she was suffering in her other subjects. So she wasn't going to Hebrew school. We came here. We belonged to a temple in Malden, which we were very happy with. And then we decided, we got calls from people that belonged here, Frank Levine, do you remember him, and Dave Posner, and they knocked on the door, and they're all excited because they saw a mezuzah on the door, and they said, you've got to join our show, and this and that. And I said, well, and she's 12 years old. She's going to have a bar mitzvah? And I said, no. And they said, oh, she's got to have a bar mitzvah. So Elliot Hurwitz was a school teacher at the time. And God loved Elliot Hurwitz, helped us in so many ways. He just passed recently. Anybody remember Elliot Hurwitz? He was fantastic. And he gave, what happened with him was every Saturday morning, besides having the history during the day, they always had services and they had teaching and everything Saturday mornings here. And my daughter, I lived on Winter Street, I'm still there 58 years, I'm on 58 Winter Street, and we could walk here, which we all did. And Sharon would go by herself on Saturday mornings to the services and he was so impressed. He says, I never had a kid that went to Hebrew school willingly. Here's a kid shows up that doesn't have to. So that was Sharon, and then he insisted that he's going to give her bar mitzvah lessons, which he did, and they gave her wonderful training. And the irony is that during this time, I got pregnant, which was a complete miracle, and I didn't know the bar mitzvah was November, whatever the date, and my due date was just about there. So I would be in my 9th month when my daughter was bar mitzvah, and I prayed the whole time I'd be able to make it. So anyway, but I had my second daughter, which was a miracle, and fortunately, she got me my grandchildren, so we were blessed all around. So they joined the synagogue, my kids did when they got married, and their children. So my family's big, strong part of this synagogue means a lot to us. But there were a lot of things that I wrote that were said already, and that's fine. But I do want everybody to know this synagogue was only open 3 days a year. It was just the high holidays. And all the years I belonged, I never missed a holiday. The kids came with me. They didn't go. I would belong to another synagogue because they had more things for children. But kids, I would say, do you want to go with all the other kids? I said, do you want to go to Malden again? Or do you want to stay? We'll stay with you, Mom. And they would sit with me the whole 3 days and you never say a word. They were always here. And thankfully, Maureen and her became president, we never had Friday night services, and Maureen started it. And it's been wonderful that at least we had something else to go to. You know, now I do Zoom, or I say my Mishabera prayers, and there are a lot of miracles on them. Unfortunately, my Sharon had 2.5 miracles, but she just passed this last January. She didn't make it. But we do say Mishaberas and everything. I didn't know you had any other questions about things that's a front order, but I did want to mention Sharon ended up living in Groveland, and Sharon married the non-Jewish boy, and my Masha, who could care less, and I ended up sending her to St. Catholic School in Everett, Pennsylvania, because the Saugus schools were all drugs and a lot of problems, and so she went there and went out with an Irish Catholic boy for 5 years. She ended up marrying the Jewish boy. She went all through Hebrew school with, as a triplet, and my Sharon ends up marrying a non-Jewish boy. So go figure both kids. Right? Anyway, they were all wonderful. And if we had, I'm so glad to see there's so many marriages, so familiar and everything.
Talk about the sisterhood, Ruth. Oh, yeah. Talk about the sisterhood.
Okay, that's all right. When Jeanette Renofsky was running the synagogue, she was wonderful. What was Jeanette's maiden name, married name before Renofsky?
Orlander.
Was it always Renofsky? Was her husband Renofsky?
Bonnie. Yeah. Jeanette and Bonnie?
I couldn't remember, yeah. Because she was sister of the president, and she was absolutely wonderful. And then she got very sick, and we go to meetings, and everybody's sitting there because no one knows what to do. And so I made a couple of suggestions that what we could do until Jeanette got better. And in the end, we did it. So I sort of became like an acting sisterhood president. And so, but I wouldn't even think about it because it was Jeanette's job. She was wonderful. But when she passed, then they had a vote, and I was voted in sisterhood president. So I was president about 12 years, I think, something like that. And that was very exciting. We did a lot of great things. And my husband was vice president for over 50 years, till he died. He was wonderful. And when we came to Saugus for the first service, every single seat was filled. There wasn't, families were mixed. And we sat over in that conference area right there, near a window, and because those are the only 2 seats that were empty. Somebody had passed. So we sat there. My kids sat with me for years, always in that area. And Dan was vice president all those years.
Not these kind of chairs either, huh?
No.
Not these kind of chairs.
Oh, the chairs. I wondered, does anybody remember? Because they were...
There's chairs in the back, I think.
Yeah, we got these seats when the Buddhist Ackerman Malden closed in 2003.
If you pick up the chairs, it's got all crosses on it, so you got them from some church.
No, these come from a shoal. The chairs up and back, the wooden ones have crosses on them.
Okay. They do? Pick them up, because when we picked them up, you saw all the crosses on them. And they said that's how they got seats, because they tried everything. And then a Buddhist Ackerman, the Ahavas Street show in Malden went out of business, and they were selling things, and that's when they got these chairs, which are wonderful.
Yeah.
You got them all installed. It made a whole big difference in the look and the effect and everything. Yeah. Beth Simons and my Sharon went to Hebrew school together, and it was Beth's father that was the one that came up, because they both went to Hebrew school. They were both excellent students. And they said to her, what's in your name? Oh, your father said, you know, we could have women go up and be part of the service. And he said, we have 2 girls that know the services and everything, and they should be allowed to do it. So Sharon and Beth were the first girls, females, because they were still kids, they were after their bar mitzvahs, that came up and had this. And come up to the bimmer. And after that, 3 years, different women come up, and now I open the yard, and it's just wonderful. But your father was the one who started it. So I see so many faces this morning. I see people who grow up, some of them are grandfathers already, they were babies when they came. I hope we're not in this.
No, you're good, you're good.
So if any questions, I'll still see you, but it's just thrilling that, the synagogue that that I belong to in Malden, that we love, the two of them now, they're both gone. We are still here, 100 years. We're still surviving. Of Judaism in Saugus. Still to this day, people don't even know there's a synagogue there because we're so close to the sidewalk that your eye just goes right by it.
Yep.
And Steve Angelo helped me put up a sign across the street with an arrow. It doesn't even help. But if there's any questions, I'll see you.
Yeah, there used to be a movie there.
Okay.
Bill Mather, could you just be at the bottom of the stairs and watch her going down the stairs? Ruthie, do you want to leave me the paper?
You can't hear it. Right up in the bed for you.
Okay, do that, please. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, sweetie. That's why I saved her for last. She's like a gift box that you open and it just keeps talking and telling and sharing. And I mean that in the nicest way. She's wonderful that way. She's a fountain of knowledge, and we're lucky to still have her with us. As we conclude our day here, I have one person who I'd like to call up because I'm so honored to have him come up. Pastor Bob Leroux of Saugus. Fast friends, and we used to go downstairs and practice guitar on every Monday afternoon, so there was music in the shul all the time. And he's become a valuable asset to our shul. He comes to our sisterhood meetings, he's a speaker and an educator. He talks to us about what he calls the Old Testament, which we call the Torah, the 5 books of the Torah and more. But he's very knowledgeable and very ecumenical, if I can use that word, for Jewish things. Thanks, Bonnie.
Actually, many of us Protestants tend to use the term the Hebrew Bible. I think the Old Testament sounds a bit dismissive, and we don't like to say it quite that way. But every Monday for many, many years, Bill Appel and I would meet downstairs, and we would play Jewish music. Bob Dylan, Simon and Garfunkel. You get the idea. Arlo Guthrie. And we didn't have speakers. We're folkies. And we would play acoustic folk guitar. And you know, some of you know that I'm a retired U.S. Army chaplain. In fact, Tuesday I'm going over to visit Chaplain Ezra Frazier, one of the 2 Jewish chaplains at Hanscom Air Force Base, where I preach once a month. And you know, I told Bill that Congregation Ahavas Shalom is a lot like a military chapel. Because, for example, as a Protestant, we would have collective Protestant services, so no matter what variety, you would come. And Congregation Ahavas Shalom is kind of like that. Whether you're Reform, Orthodox, Conservative, Reconstruction, you come here and you feel at home. And the differences are minor because what unites us is greater than that which divides us. Now, Maureen, you wanted me to do a prayer, but isn't that a Jimmy's?
Yes, that's a Jimmy's.
Okay. But I just wanted to, I am also the former president of the Clergy Association in Saugus. And Bill was a very active member of that. And unfortunately for them, the 2 of us would sit together. And the meetings ended up being very disruptive. But, you know, anyhow, God bless you all. Be well.
Thank you. To end our afternoon, I call on our very own Michael Simons, religious leader, for a few remarks and a closing prayer.
Good afternoon. I'm not used to sitting in the seats. I'm always up here. When I was a little boy, my mother told me, Michael, you have a big mouth and someday it's going to get you into trouble. And she was right. 27 years ago, I was sitting next to my wife and my very young son at the time, my mother-in-law, and they were having services here. Now, the shul had decided the year before not to close. They were going to stay open, and they got a gentleman, Mr. Ahavas, who you heard about today, to run services. Well, he lived in Holbrook, which is quite a schlep from here. So he only had, I think, 3 that year. And he announced at the end of the third one to Maureen and Bill that it was just too much of a drive for him. He had other things to do, whatever. He couldn't do it. So what were they going to do for a leader? Well, some fool was sitting in that back row singing very loudly all the prayers. And they went up to that fool and they said to him, would you like to be our religious leader? I'll start my 27th year this September. We are lucky in this synagogue that we went from 3 times a year. We're now open about 12 days a year. It doesn't sound like much of an increase, but it is. And it's good to know it's consistent.
Yes.
It's all the time. We meet here Friday nights at least 8 times a year, and I'm fortunate enough to lead. And I guarantee your money back if I ever sing on key. But my job here is to lead the service. I also tell a joke, and somehow I get a sermon out, which is not really a sermon, more like a talk. So, to earn my street creds here, I'm going to end with 2 prayers. One is in celebration of any event where you've looked forward to it and it's finally here. This is called the Shehapiyanu. It's very short. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Shehapiyanu, v'kiyimanu, v'higiyanu l'zman hazeh. Blessed are you, Lord, the universe, who's allowed us to reach this day. And the last we're going to do is what usually everyone looks forward to in Shul, the Adon Olam prayer, because that means we can eat afterwards. And this will be no exception. So I'll sing, it's done, just so I know that you all know the same tune, I'll sing the very traditional tune. Adon Olam Hashem Allah, B'terem kol yitzir nira, V'nasa v'hetzo kol, Azai melech shemo nikra, V'yaharei yimlok hakol, V'na'ado yimlok nora, V'hu hayam, V'hu hoveh, V'hu yiyeh, V'tifara, V'hu echad, V'ein sheni, Lehamshilo, Leachbira, V'li reshis, V'li tachlit, V'lo haos, V'hamizrah, V'yado, Akiruchi, V'yeisha, V'yaira, V'imruchi, V'yati, Adonai li, V'lo yirah.
close, I just wanted to say one thing. We did try having Saturday morning services in 2000 when we finally got a group of officers together, and we couldn't get 10 people to come, which is a minyan, and we have to have 10 people to have a service. You know how it is these days, you only have family time on the weekends, it's precious time. Our Shabbos service takes 3 hours, they didn't want to come and sit for 3 hours. And that's how we ended up just settling on a Friday night service, because not a lot of people do anything on a Friday night, and we can get them in usually at least 10 people, sometimes more. And then the high holidays, we used to do the 3 days, but since COVID, we've only done 1 day for Rosh Hashanah, and then the week after Yom Kippur. So that does conclude our services. And in this heat, you're probably grateful that we didn't go till 4 o'clock. It's a little early, but we lost a couple of speakers, and that's why. So I just want to thank everybody for coming for this afternoon and bearing the heat with us. I know it's uncomfortable, but you all did swell. Gold stars for everybody. I hope you get home safe, and I wish you well. And I would ask the people who spoke today to stick around for some pictures. The officers also, I want to have some pictures taken. And anybody else who would care to sit around and just watch, you can do that. You don't have to leave. But thank you so much for coming and sharing this special day. I don't know how much longer we have, but I hope it's at least another 25 years. I'm going for 100. What the heck?